Hello and welcome to the Hyperion Driver-Based Planning tutorial. In this lesson, we will talk about expense drivers. Expense drivers work in a similar way to revenue drivers. You first launch a web form, you select a planning cost center, then your expense accounts, driver numbers, and lastly you configure your expense driver types. We will talk about 4 expense driver types: trending, entering a fixed dollar amount, basing an expense on another driver's quantity, and finally basing an expense on another account's value. To begin, we open a SmartView template in Excel where I already have both a revenue and expense web form open. This template is using the Planning Cost Center for Expert Pay within the Payment Services Cat 10 organization. You can see this group used the 12-month average, which is a trending expense driver type. That driver type will cause the system to calculate the average of the last 12 months of actuals for this planning cost center for this account. The calculation was already run, and we see the calculated values in the gray cells. For these other expense accounts, where the driver type was also trending, there were no actuals, and thus the calculated value was 0. If you need to change the trending type, click on the driver type field, then the down arrow. Make your choice, and then click on Submit to validate your selection and send the data to the server. Please note that you have to tell the system to run a calculation for the calculated values to update. We cover that process in a separate video. If you need to override the trend or enhance it, you can make an adjustment to the quantity. Let's say that on this month there are another $5,000 worth of expenses expected. You can just type the amount in the yellow cells on the driver value Q adjustment row and then click Submit. The trend will still calculate, but you will have an extra $5,000 added to the result. Notice that when we click on Submit, the value changed on the driver value row, but the calculated value did not. Remember, the calculated value will not change until you run a full calculation. Another driver type is fixed charge. If we want to quickly search for the fixed charge driver type, we just type the word fixed, and the words fixed charge will show. You can use this technique to quickly find other driver types. You can always type a comment if you want to add more information about a driver. Then click on Submit to validate. The system will hide any rows you do not need for the driver type selected. Now you need to go in and add your fixed amounts. In this example, your driver rate, or P, should be 1. P refers to price, and Q would be the quantity of the fixed amount. The system actually works if you reverse the numbers, but it's nice to be consistent. It is also handy in case management says to decrease the expense 10%, in which case you could quickly change the P to 0.9. Type in your fixed amounts, then click on Submit. The driver value Q total row will update immediately. Next, we are going to look at how to set up an expense driver based on another driver's quantity. For this example, we move to the Other Employees Cost account. We have already added a second driver. I want to base this second expense driver on a revenue driver's quantity. We have already filled some of this out and submitted the form for calculation. You can add descriptive detail in the comments section. For this driver type, we need to define which account and driver combination this expense is going to be based on. For that information, we jump to the revenue sheet and take a look. In this example, I know I want to base my expense on the quantity of minutes. I need to take note that the account is External Revenue Volume Recurring and the driver is Driver 001. We then go back to the expense sheet and enter that information. The driver type was already selected as Existing Driver Q, Select Account and Driver, so we just entered the account and driver number. For this driver type, we must now fill out the resource per transaction line. How many resources are being consumed for every minute? In this example, we enter 1, but we could enter any number or decimal. Next, we enter the driver rate, P, which is price. I'm using 0.0025 to show that the system can handle small prices. Notice the calculated value in the gray cell. This is the quantity pulled in from the revenue form. After doing the math, the calculated value is $2,500. Always remember to submit your form when you do data entry. Now we are going to look at the last driver type, where we use an existing account value to model an expense. In this scenario, we want our travel expense to be based on a specific headcount amount. We can use Control F to open Excel search tool and search for travel and entertainment. Notice that there are 2 drivers already existing. Driver 001 is set for 12-month trend, and you can see the calculated value that is based on a 12-month average of actuals. Driver 002 is already configured to be based on an existing account value, as you can see in the driver type cell. After selecting the correct driver type, we submitted the form and it turned green, as you can see here. You can add a comment to provide more detail about this driver. For the driver type of driver existing account, you need to go to the driver existing account section and select the account you want to base this expense on. For this example, we look for headcount D03 US, which is a statistical account in the system. Next, we enter the P or price. The Q or quantity will be pulled in from the system based on your planned D3 headcount. In this example, for every D3 in the United States, we are planning on $2,500 a month for travel expenses. In these months, you'll see that the planned number of US D3s are 10, 8, and 6. These quantities are calculated elsewhere in the system. In the gray cells, you can see the resulting calculated values are $25,000, which is a P of $2,500 times a Q of 10, and $20,000, which is the same P times a Q or quantity of 8. Note that there was no P for the 3rd month and thus no calculated value. If you open the Adjust Ledger web form on another sheet and look at the travel and entertainment line, you will see the effect of our 2 expense drivers combined. There is the 12-month average, and for these 2 months, August and September, where we had a second driver based on the amount of D3 headcount, there was an increase in the planned expense. Thank you for your time and attention. Goodbye.